Greetings, ghouls and ghoulettes. It's your old fiend Corey from the Twin Ports Horror Society. This evening, we are joined by Michael O'Neill from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is a paranormal investigator. He's involved with 2 different paranormal radio programs, and he is also bringing the PARAUNITY convention to Duluth, Minnesota in this coming July. Michael, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's start with the PARAUNITY convention. That's going to be at the Deck in Duluth, Minnesota, July 8th through 10th. Can you tell us all about that and what people should expect from this convention?
Well, people should expect that it's going to be amazing. So basically, when, just to kind of give some background on it, I'm a director of my own team. So I was a vendor at Paracon when the Shooting Star was still hosting it. And then, like a lot of people, we were all, absolutely distressed to hear that they were no longer going to be hosting it, or at least they were taking a year off with the rumor that they were never going to have it again. And so I kind of got roped into making my own, because everybody that I ever talked to was like, I can't believe Paracon's not going to be here. I met my best friend at like, there are so many memories that are made at these conventions that you can't just not have one. And so I tried to do it here in the Twin Cities, and that did not work out for me at all. In fact, I learned the very hard lesson that it seems to be that a lot of places don't actually want to make money here in the cities. So I got a suggestion from a friend of mine who was like, try Duluth. And so I contacted the Deck and told them kind of what I wanted to do. And they were like, okay, well, here's the prices. Here what we can do for you. And I'm like, sold. Like, absolutely. I'm like, I couldn't have had better prices if I wanted to, at least for the first year. And so I started being part of the radio show. I made a bunch of contacts in the paranormal field. And so I just started reaching out to all of them like, hey, you want to come to Minnesota? How much would it cost to bring you here? That kind of thing. And they just started signing up. So we have, people obviously like Grant Wilson, Dustin Perry, Adam Berry, Chip Coffey. He's going to be doing a gallery reading for obviously people who buy tickets to it. Chuck Zukowski, Heather Taddy, just a whole slew more. I don't want to name every single one of them because that would take a while. But, so they're all going to be there. Most of them are going to be doing presentations, hour-long presentations throughout the entire weekend. And there's the VIP dinner, which I'm very, very proud of and very excited for. I think more so than the actual convention, because not only do you get the chance to like just mingle with, the celebs and stuff, usually at Paracon, they put them up on a stage and everybody just kind of watched them eat, which was weird in of itself. But, this time I'm putting them down with everybody else. So, like you can sit at Grant Wilson's table, you can sit at Chip Coffey's table and just kind of have a meal with them. And then a bunch of them volunteered, because I made them, to do lip sync battles against each other. And so you're going to see like Chip Coffey versus Chris Fleming, which is going to be amazing. And you have Dustin Perry versus Chad Lindbergh. I'm trying to think of these off the top of my head. Heather Taddy and Ken Boggle. And I don't know if you know who Ken Boggle is, but that guy's amazing and like a performance artist to the extreme. And they're going to be going against Rochelle Stratton and Brian Murray from Ghost, the new version of Ghost Hunters. The only thing that is still in the works, only because it was already fully done, but because of COVID, she doesn't know if it's going to be safe for her to be, because she's immunocompromised, but Michelle Belanger from, Portals to Hell and Paranormal State, and she would go against John Tenney, which is shocking in and of itself. But apparently they used to be quite the rockers in their day before I guess they came into the paranormal. So I'm really looking forward to that. Not to mention, obviously it's a really, really nice dinner that's catered in. But yeah, there's so much to look forward to for this. The only thing, obviously, that I think a lot of people are still I'd say upset, but worried about is COVID. Will we be able to actually do it? Will we be able to get together as we normally do? And I believe at that time we will. The only kind of worry that I have is how many people I will be allowed to have in the convention at one time. And I mean, I hope it's enough, but as of right now, it's like 150, but that's going to obviously get expanded as we get closer. But yeah, as of right now, it's full steam ahead, and I fully expect this to be just an absolute awesome convention.
Nice, and that's July 8th through 10th of 2021. So that's, yeah, there's some time. Hopefully things get a lot better and they can open that sucker up to full capacity. And then once again, so that's July 8th through 10th at the deck. And the website for that's mnparacon.com. We'll put that we'll edit in some text as well too, so that people can go there. But tickets are available right now, is that correct?
Oh yeah. They've actually been available since like December of 2019. Because the original dates for this convention were October 2nd and 3rd of 2020, and then I had to postpone it due to the pandemic to the current July dates. And unfortunately for me, and this is caused a minuscule problem with my customers, is I bought a whole bunch of passes for the October 2nd and 3rd dates. And so when I had to postpone, even though they're all still valid, I still get people being like, why do my passes say October 2nd and 3rd? Because they're, yeah, so it's been amazing. It's been an amazing time. I'm the one that responds to all emails and all questions and from all the different things. And it's actually been fun getting to know a lot of like people who are interested in coming to this convention.
Yeah, it should be fun. I don't think Duluth has had anything like this or close to anything like this at all. So I think there should be a lot of interested people. And yeah, you got a lot of celebrity guests. Looks like you can get some photos taken with some of those. Going to be a lot of vendors, it looks like. You were talking about the VIP dinner. So I think it's definitely going to be a lot of excitement for the paranormal fans in this area, and I'm sure a lot of people coming from out of town as well too. So
yeah, I've gotten orders from people in California, like Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina. Every time I see it, I'm like, whoa, let me give you some discount hotel information because you're coming a long way to for this convention. And I appreciate that. I love the fact that, not only do they want to come to this, that it's worth their time and money to come to this convention, but they're such big fans of the paranormal to do that. I'm sure that there's a bunch of smaller conventions around there, but they want to take the time to come to Duluth and come to this convention, and I'm honored by that.
Do you think is there a lot of these that typically go on across the U.S., or is this one of few, would you say?
There are a lot of small ones. Like they won't even, like they might have, Dustin Perry, or they might have like one singular TV personality there. I know that Menominee, Wisconsin, which is just a little like 40,000 person town in Wisconsin, they had a Paranomicon, which was just in the theater, but they had Grant Wilson there. And like that was it. And then a bunch of obviously local vendors. So there are a lot of really small ones, but there are only, I would say, 4 or 5 big ones. New Jersey is a really big one. Michigan is a big one. And this year, brand new is obviously Duluth, and then there's one in Dallas, which I will also be at. And then I am trying to, and I know this doesn't really need to be part of the conversation because it has nothing to do with Minnesota, but I've just announced Las Vegas ParaUnity Convention, which is in December. And so that's going to be probably, at least in my hopes, the biggest one of the year.
Nice. Yeah, so you're doing kind of almost the same type of event that you're doing in Duluth here out in Vegas as well, then it sounds like, right?
It's a little different. It's going to bring in more people because it's so
Oh,
cheap
yeah.
to fly to Las Vegas, and it's at the end, hopefully the end of the year and the end of like when we need to really be, not fearful of this pandemic. And it's such a much larger convention hall, I guess I want to say,
Oh, yeah.
where I'm just kind of throwing, sheets to the wind and like, hey, you're part of the paranormal, come on in. So I mean, there may be like 15 celebs in Minnesota. I'm at like 30 right now for Vegas. So I'm just bringing in anybody and everybody for this convention in Vegas. But that's not to take anything away from Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Because that will always be my baby right there. That's the one that started it all for me, and I'm going to make sure that not only goes off without a hitch, but that people have a really amazing time doing it.
Awesome. I bet it's easier to convince celebrities to go to Vegas than it is to come to Minnesota, though. But,
Yeah, they're willing to forego some moolah for a trip to spend a weekend in Vegas. I won't name who, but yeah, I've definitely seen like I've had celebrity, TV personalities or whatever contact me directly and be like, "Hey, I see you're doing this event. Is there any way I can be a part of it?"
nice.
And so yeah, but I have one more person to announce for Minnesota, who's it's going to be, I think, a phenomenal addition to it. I'm just waiting for his contract to come back in, and then that lineup. Besides Michelle Belanger, when she decides whether she feels safe or coming or not, that'll be the end of that lineup. So July will be set, and everybody will know what to expect.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the two radio programs that you're involved with, the Odyssey Files and After Hours AM?
Right. So the Odyssey Files is a show that the guy who trained me to be an investigator, it's also one of my very dear friends, about 4 years ago, we're coming up on our 4th-year anniversary, started the Odyssey Files on the ParaX radio network. We've since left the ParaX radio network, but that's where we got our start. And we just wanted, like normal podcasts, have like great guests and great conversation and interesting topics. And we don't always succeed at that, but we have some fun. We've had some absolutely phenomenal guests. We've been thrown down some rabbit holes that we did not expect from some of our guests. But it's been a great ride. And so that you can hear that now on Iron Range Radio Network. I think it's just ironrangeradio.com. That's Mondays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. And then it goes out to Spreaker, and it goes out to iHeartRadio, and so you can pretty much get our podcast version of it anywhere you can get that stuff. Just do a search for obviously Odyssey Files radio show. After Hours AM has been on for a very, very long time. It goes live on iHeartRadio around the world, pretty much live every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Central Time. That's Joel Sturgis is the host of that. He was nice enough to bring me on about a year ago as his co-host, and that has been fun. I enjoy doing both of these. We typically, every single show on both shows, we do like listener emails where people write in their stories, their questions, if they want advice, anything that deals with the paranormal, they can write in, and then we obviously try to give our advice, or answer their question to the best of our ability. And I can easily say that as much as I love the conversations with the TV personalities, helping the people and trying to give them good advice is what I love the most from both shows.
Awesome. So let's get into the paranormal investigation stuff then. So how long have you been doing that?
It's been about a year. A
Okay.
year. I'm sorry. I've been about a decade. Little
Same thing.
difference there.
Yeah.
I want to. I guess that's just one of those times where you want to say 10 years and then a decade, and you just f it up. But no,
Feels
I've
like
been
a
doing
year.
about a decade now, and the last, in fact, in less than 2 weeks, it'll be the 6-year anniversary of Odyssey Paranormal Society, which is the team that I founded. And I wanted to get into this to help people and to make them understand kind of what was going on in their homes. And when we're not needed to do that, go and interact with the living history, and historic mansions and Nopamine and all the others historical locations. But yeah, the my website, odysseysparanormalsociety.com, is up. We got all of our, not all of our good cases, up that had some really good evidence, and you can see all of that, photos, videos, doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, so it's been a great decade and a great learning experience. And I by no means know everything, nor do I pretend to. Uh, so even a decade in, I'm still learning.
Nice. So one of the cases that I was looking at on the Odyssey Paranormal Society page was the William A Irvin. I was drawn to that one, just being from Duluth, and it looks like you've been there a couple times.
I have
Um,
investigated 3 times.
3 times, okay. And so, do you have any good stories from that one, or anything that the some of the locals here in Duluth might find interesting with that experience?
Yeah, I absolutely love the Irvin. That place. I mean, even though it's an old ship, and you're just kind of on there by the energy there is amazing, and you just kind of feel like it's alive. And every time that I've investigated, I've always had some sort of personal experience or something that has happened, um, that's been like that's amazing. I remember the second time that I'd gotten there, it was only me and two of my other investigators, and we were all down in the cargo hold. And people in Duluth obviously know that Irvin has the haunted maze. So that was up there. They build it all year round. So all that stuff's in the cargo hold. Uh, so we were down by where they call like this haunted grandfather clock. Even though I don't particularly believe there's anything to it, but they always seem to have activity wherever they put this grandfather clock. Um, but we were down there, and as you get used to the cargo hold, you can hear the water, kind of just hitting the side and stuff like that. So you know what that sounds like. Um, well, one of my investigators who had never been there before, I was the only one that had, was like, hey, are you happy that Mike came back, to see you? All of a sudden, boom, like right against the hull. And I'm like, I'm going to take that as a yes. And I can't remember exactly what the next question was, but I mean, it was something along the lines of, is there anything that you want to say, or something along those lines. I was just continuing the conversation. Boom, against the hull again, like right after you asked it. I mean, and stuff like that was stuff we never heard before. And I mean, because like I said, we get used to the bangs of the water and stuff like that, but these were huge. Um, and it never repeated after that. So I guess maybe I pissed it off. I don't know. But I know the last time that I was there, we were doing a spirit box session up in the bridge. And, and the guy that I was with, his name was Matt, or is Matt, I should say, he's not dead. But Matt was with me, and he started talking about, he's like, hey, would you mind if we brought on the whiskey, like a thing of whiskey for you? And I started talking like, no, you don't bring, whiskey into an investigation. You don't bring it onto the break. I'm kind of chastising him a little bit, but while the spirit box is going, and all of a sudden he brought in the fact that he's like, well, the Ghost Brothers, when they were doing a ship or whatever, they did that and they got this or whatever. And then out of you hear all of a sudden on the spirit box, you hear this female voice use the N word. And I'm like, what? Like, did we really just hear that? I'm like, man, there's some racist spirits here up here in Duluth. I couldn't believe it. I even went back and listened to it later. I'm like, yeah, that's what it sounds like. So yeah, always a different experience there because I had never experienced anything like that before. I'd never even come close to having that in any of my evidence. So I don't know what we attracted there. If maybe some spirits just kind of came in off the street, but it was a fascinating time. I haven't heard that since or before. Thank goodness. But yeah, like I said, the Irvin is an amazing place, and I'm really trying, and I don't know if they'll allow it or not. But I'm trying to add in like a limited entry investigation for Unity to the Irvin, either Friday or Saturday night, and then just kind of invite some of the celeb personalities if they want to come over for like an hour or two and do a session with their fans and stuff like that. I don't know if they'll allow me to, but I'm trying to work that in.
Nice. That sounds like that'd be really awesome. So have you been anywhere else in Duluth for any investigations, or is that the only place?
No, we did the depot.
Okay, how was
Actually,
that?
was it last January, last February, I think it was, of 2020. Quiet, very, very quiet. We actually had no personal experiences. We had no evidence that was captured from there. So either it was just a really quiet night, or all of these stories that you hear about the depot are urban legend. I think a lot of the claims that have come out, a lot of the stories were like when the Lincoln's car or Roosevelt's car, a very like popular train car was in the building, but now they're gone, obviously, to wherever they are now, and all the activity left.
Yeah, I haven't heard too many stories locally, stories about anything going on there for a long time. So that doesn't surprise me that you didn't find anything there. So what are some of your favorite stories to tell involving your investigations, or some of your favorite ones that you like to talk about? Let's hear some from the A list.
Oh, that's a lot. So well, maybe I should change that because for whatever reason, and I tell anybody that comes out and investigates with me this, I'm like, if you don't want to experience anything, come with me. Because for some reason, I just do not get the personal experiences. I get the evidence. There's a lot of EVPs and stuff that are on the recorders, and really good audio, video and stuff like that. But personal experiences, nada. Like it doesn't happen very often. So when it does, it becomes even more special to me. I would probably say one of the greatest case that I ever worked on wasn't for a client, unfortunately, but the Grand Opera House in Dubuque, Iowa. I was in the process of training a team down there, kind of another chapter of the ops team, and that was my first case in the city. And like every single one of the investigators that I had with me was like their first case ever. And I had so many firsts in just that building and just that one night. I had never heard footsteps before. And then there they were, like on the stage. I could hear them. And me being up in the kind of the balcony area, I could see everybody else. Nobody was moving, but you could clearly hear, the walking across the stage. And in that exact same session, for whatever reason, it almost sounded like a transistor radio just like started blaring out of nowhere for like probably 5-6 seconds. Got it on audio, but like everybody's like, what the what the F? And I thought actually that somebody had like gone into my base camp and gotten the tri-field meter. And like when you hear that ring, as it goes up, that's kind of exactly what it sounded like. Only problem with that is my tri-field meter, the battery was dead, and I bought one that doesn't have that alarm. So that was done and over with that one. But the greatest thing, and I don't know if you're going to add it to the show or whatever, is the FLIR footage that we caught in the costume shop.
Yep,
And this was another,
in.
and this was another first for me. It was the very first session of the night. Fifth floor. It's just this kind of long room that all you can do is walk down the center of it. That's it. And they have like shelving and stuff like that. But even the space in between the shelves were completely filled with totes and clothes and boxes and stuff that you couldn't go anywhere except right down the middle. Well, we were hearing almost what sounded like a regal voice, like just very refined and like confident and elegant. Elegant, I think, is the best word for it. And we could hear this voice, and we had no idea where it was coming from because, again, we're in a brick building on the 5th floor, and the only other team that was there was down in the theater, like 4 floors below us. We couldn't make out what she was saying, but it went on for like 30 seconds, like complete sentences. And it turns out that almost at the exact same time, Deb, who's one of my investigators, had the FLIR. And she was kind of just panning around, getting used to it because she had never used it before. And we caught, and you can say whatever you want, but we caught what looks like a fairy on the thermal. I don't know if you've watched it yourself yet.
I did watch it. I didn't really have a lot of context to go with it, so this is kind of great to hear, about what I was seeing more.
Right. So as she pans over, kind of over against where all of the stack stuff is, you see this figure. It looks like it's a hood. That as she pans over, it ducks down away from us. It's all the same color. It's all like 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which means it's not one of us. Not to mention, nobody could get where this figure was. And if you look at on the back of it as it turns, it looks like a pair of wings that she shrinks and then expands again as she ducks away. I don't know what that is. But we've had, Grant Wilson himself looked at it. He wanted a copy of it so he could try and disprove it. Heard back from him. I was like, yeah, no, I can't. There's nothing. I can't disprove that. But again, don't know what it is. So I just call it the Grand Opera House Faerie, and go on with that. If it fits. But if somebody can come up with a better answer as to what it is, I'm fully open-minded about that.
Wow. Was that a place that you kind of went on your own, or were you asked to come in there and take a look at some things? Is it kind of like a more famously haunted place that you just wanted to see, or?
I didn't even know that it existed.
Okay.
Pretty much the team that I was putting together, they were all from Dubuque. So the guy I was going to put in charge of that chapter, he knows all the contacts and everything. So he contacted them and was like, hey, can we try this place out? And, as it turned out, like, they don't really advertise being haunted. They don't really come on in, let's do an event, Tracy, who's kind of like their technical director, he told me that, yeah, every once in a while, this group of drunk guys likes to come and pay to come in and, make a ruckus for, an hour or two. But they had never really had a real investigation done until we had been there. So we weren't necessarily called in, but they were definitely interested in what a real investigation would turn out.
Nice. So what other stories you got that you feel like sharing here?
God, there's so many.
Have you ever been to like a more famously haunted place and then just been like, yeah, this is nothing other than the depot?
I was going to say the depot. No, not really. I mean, again, I don't get a lot of personal experiences. So just because it's quiet for me, um, doesn't really mean that, well, it's not haunted, or it's not active, I should say. I should say it's not active. Um, because then we'll go over the evidence and we'll have like 15 EVPs, intelligent EVPs of stuff that has happened. Plus other investigators who are not with me will then, they'll have experiences. Um, I would say Edinburgh Manor, whereas it is active, I just don't think that it's definitely not as evil as people think it is. There's no demon there. Um, you know, I honestly think that there is a spirit there that if you try and, be a douchebag about it, like he will smack you down. And I think that's justifiably so. But a lot of people then take that, oh my God, there's a demon here. There's no demon there. Um, I have had one very, very good experience there. We were up on the top floor, all the way down to one of the huge, like, I don't want to say community room, but there's like six, four or five beds that are in this room. And it was me, one of my investigators, and then a bunch. We were at an event. We were doing an event, I should say. So we had about 5, 6 more people with us, but we're the only ones on that floor. And we weren't getting anything. We weren't getting nothing. And I was like, well, okay. I'm like, well, if you want us to go to the other end of the floor to talk to us there, just kind of let us know. And like 5 seconds about us, and he goes, that just comes from nowhere. And you even hear me, on the audio. What the beep was that? And I don't know if I could swear, so
Yeah,
I just tried not to. Never heard anything like that before, but I mean, like, nobody was anywhere near us that we would have heard it on that floor. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and we got it on. It actually sounded louder to our ears than it did on the recorder, but we can still get it. So I mean, Edinburgh for me is not so much active, but I have gotten, every time I've been there, have gotten phenomenal evidence out of that place. But we try to do like an annual event there. In fact, it's coming up in about a month, where we're headed back for a 2-day event, and we get like 36 hours of unrestricted access to this place to investigate however we want. And greatly looking forward to getting back there and doing that again.
Nice. So, just kind of going back to your comment about demons there. Obviously, when you're doing this type of thing, you have to have a very open, mind towards a lot of things. But is there a certain scope of belief with this? Like, is it one of those things where, like, yeah, I think they're spirits, but demons are bullshit? Or is it really, are you really way more open to just absolutely anything? Or is there kind of a somewhat narrowed down scope of beliefs of what you could find, if that makes sense?
No, it does, and it's a phenomenal question. Um, I'm I guess you could say I am still, jury's still out on that one. As my knowledge and experience grows, so does my beliefs in this and that. And demons are weird. I guess if you could say that. I'm sure that's probably not an adjective most people attribute to them, but um, you know, I've gotten theories, over here on the right side of, demons particularly aren't real. They're just, they're interdimensional beings, or they're mistaken for shadow people, or they're just kind of spirits that were once human that, have just, they just want to hurt. They just want to cause chaos, just like a normal demon would. I think elementals are also mistaken for demons a lot, for things that they do. But on the other hand, you have a lot of people and stories and evidence that say that there are these beings that really just are pure hate and what we would consider evil. Um, So I honestly don't know. The only thing that I will say on them is that they are absolutely not as common as a lot of people think. Nowadays, because of Paranormal Survivor and Ghost Adventures and all these paranormal TV shows that only show these really, really awful cases. And yes, they do exist, but people think that that's all that's all the paranormal is now. And
Just
so you hear a knock on the wall. Oh my God, I have a demon in my house. I have a buddy of mine who I used to work with. He contacted me because he thought something was kind of messing with his girlfriend in her house, and he used to talk about like this haunting he had in his house way back when we were a couple years before we stopped working with each other. And he brought that up again. He's like, I have demons in my home. I'm like, you don't have demons in your home. I have demons in my home. I'm like, I'm like, no, you don't. The thing that I would just point out is do demons exist? Probably, but I assure you, they're not in your house.
That's good to know. Well, I think a lot of times, like if I think demon, I almost think there's almost more of a religious context behind it. And if somebody is talking about just a ghost or a spirit, I don't start thinking like that. So I guess that's kind of where I think there might be some differences. So, I mean, you obviously know a lot of people who, are also paranormal investigators and deep into this sort of thing. Do you find like a wide range of, does everybody kind of keep the same open-mindedness, or do you find a lot of people who are just like, nope, there's only this and there's no fucking this, or is it all pretty open?
Okay.
You got your weirdos there too who are just like, nope, there's only, I don't know.
I'm okay. So I'm a little different than most people. I consider myself to be the paranormal prude.
Okay.
Like I have this mindset, and whereas I'm open minded, but it's other people should have at least somewhat close to the same type of mentality. And I have been fortunate to have met a great number of people and teams that have that. I'm a big proponent that there is a separation and there is a difference between a ghost hunter and a paranormal investigator. And the thing about it is you have ghost hunters calling themselves paranormal investigators, and in order to be really cool, you have paranormal investigators calling themselves ghost hunters. And so I try to stay away from the ghost hunters, which are like the thrill seekers. The people who claim that they're out there to help people, but then the second something happens in a home, they book it out the door and they say, "Sorry, you're on your own." Or they go into somebody's home and they just start provoking because all they want to do, we need to bring that stuff out. We need to invite this in. We need to rile this up. Um, to me, there's a smart way of doing paranormal investigation to help people. And then there's another way. And so I try to keep the circle that I have of people who just want to help in a smart way, and while completely boycotting the people who aren't. And so I mean, obviously, I'm not going to name any names, but there have been a lot of people and teams that I have come across where I see what they do, the cases that they have, their evidence, which is terrible. if I may sound condescending and judge them a little bit, but they're the people that everything's a ghost. If there's a knock on a wall, it's not the house settling, it's a ghost. If you hear it 3 times, oh my God, it's a demon. They have the videos of dust, and it's like, look at this orb. Look
Right.
at this spirit orb.
So they're just
That's
trying to
the
get
stuff.
YouTube hits, basically, or
Exactly.
they're doing it for
Exactly.
that.
And those are the people who raise my blood pressure a lot, because I take the field very, very seriously. And to see that kind of stuff out there makes me feel like it's an insult to everything that I'm trying to do in the field in general, um, because it's not supernatural, it's not paranormal at all. It's just people who are misinterpreting stuff, who don't want to take the time to disprove their own stuff.
I imagine even though you have to have a very open mind, you still need to have a healthy dose of skepticism, so that you don't end up like you said, this everything's a ghost, dust is an orb, demons are everywhere. I suppose there's got to be some sort of balance there. Do you find that hard for a lot of people to find and keep?
No, surprisingly, no. In fact, I get asked a lot, how do you deal with skeptics?
Hmm.
And I love skeptics. I honestly do. Like the open-minded skeptics are like, I don't really believe in this, but if you were to bring a piece of evidence or I were to have an experience that I could not, I would be open-minded to maybe to change my mind. It's the cynics that I can't stand because no matter what you bring them, they're not going to change their mind. Even if you brought them something they couldn't disprove, you're the crazy one.
Right.
You're trying to trick them. So I love skeptics because they always look for something else to be the cause. Instead of going into a home, and something happens, like maybe they hear knocking on the wall. Like to them, it may not be a spirit at all, maybe a rat in the wall. There's always maybe a loose wire if you get an EMF, hit or something like that. They always try to come up with a rational explanation for it before they turn to the paranormal. And I think that is phenomenal because it could definitely be that. And I would not, as an investigator, want to bring something to the client that is then disproven as being, oh, sorry, you had a rat in your wall. Or somebody sneezed and, matrixed words out of that. And now that's an EVP. Um, so I honestly love skeptics. I think that an open-minded skeptic can make a great investigator with the paranormal, although they're typically not interested in becoming investigators. For me, like I'm fully invested in the fact of that spirits are real, that places can be active, but that not everything is a spirit, not everything is an orb, not everything is supernatural in origin. That they can all have very natural causes. And I love that fact. Anytime that I come across somebody like that, I'll get along with them to the end of days.
Nice. So now with your decade of experience, if somebody, wants to start getting into this, what are some things that you would tell them to study or look up, or how would you tell them to go about, researching the things that they should to go down the path that you've been on?
I love this question. I've been asked that a lot lately, and I don't think people like my answer to it.
Okay.
Because typically I say don't get into it.
Stay out of my
and,
lane.
no. It has nothing to do with that, and it has nothing to do with just like trying to be like, no, you don't want to be part. Like it's a bad field. It's not. It's amazing in every way, shape, or form. But the thing that I have seen is that people do not start out correctly. They watch the TV shows and they're like, okay, that's the way I'm going to do everything. And that's not exactly the way to do it, at least depending on the show you're watching. And so what I tell, because many people say like, I want to start my own team. How do I do that? Like, don't. You're only going to get yourselves in trouble. Because I don't think people fully understand the risks involved in becoming an investigator in the paranormal and things that can happen to you. Not only happen to you, but your fellow investigators and even your family if you bring something home, which is very possible to do. So what I tell people, before starting your own team, join a reputable team that is already formed. Get training. Learn how to do evidence review. Learn how to do EVP sessions. Learn how to set up the equipment. Learn how to do everything for a year. Dave, who I mentioned earlier, I observed and trained under him for 4 years before we, kind of split up to do our own thing. And like I said, I'm still learning, but I've had so many investigators who have come to investigate with me 3 investigations in, and they're getting angry with me for telling them what to do because they know everything. I'm like, well, no, you don't. And, they get mad at me and quit and they go start their own team. So, I mean, it's something that is the main thing that I would say is if you want to get into the paranormal, do not just go on it on your own. If you want to go to an event that is being hosted by like a reputable team, that you can just kind of see what it's like, do so. Contact a good team in your area and be like, hey, I just want to see what this is like, or you have any openings that I can join, and train, learn how to do it before you're on your own, because a mistake can be horrible in the paranormal. They can cost you a lot, and I would prefer not to have that happen. I have had clients who have asked me, can I join your team? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, all right, well, I guess I'll just go start my own. I'm like, no, you won't. You don't know what you're doing. So that is my advice. The other thing I think people don't know is, one, how much time and energy actually has to go into an actual investigation. It does not end just at the investigation. You still have 40 hours of evidence review to do. And it's also very expensive, very expensive. I consider myself lucky to, over the last 8 years, have built this arsenal, but I've probably spent $15,000 of my money on equipment, and that suits me, and that not everybody has to do that, but it's very expensive to get all of the toys and stuff. But really, you only need a recorder and camera. That's about it. But if you want to be like the big guy, the big guns, as my friend Kim gave me that nickname. But yeah, so that's my advice. Get some training, learn what it's like to be part of the paranormal before you go off and try to do it by yourself.
That makes sense to me. So do you have any like suggested reading materials or things that people could look up if they aren't looking to take the step of leaving the house, but kind of want to, research more of the same things that you're into? Or maybe who would be the best kind of people to look up and see the work that they've done? What people that you think would be worth checking out?
I really like The Demonologist, which is the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I think there's some great information in there, and just kind of warning stories of
that
what,
book scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it scared the crap out of me, but I mean, it was very, very interesting, and it's like, oh, holy crap. I really would not want to get involved in that myself. And I really like Michelle Belanger. I think she's a phenomenal. She has the Psychic Vampire, but she also has like the Dictionary of Demons, which I think would be great material just to educate yourself. I mean, don't just read that and then be like, okay, well, let's see, the door closed. Who's that? What demon is that? And go through the book. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. I guess like all of my knowledge really just comes from like conversating with people and reading articles here and there. Just whatever meets your fancy. I mean, for the Odyssey Files, we always try to, if we don't have a guest, we just did doppelgangers, last night. And so that requires research, and I've learned tons of stuff about doppelgangers, and kind of the couple weeks before that was pagan gods. I mean, so really you just have to pick a topic, and there's tons of stuff on the internet to read. But like full-fledged books, if you're into like UFOs, I would definitely recommend like the 37th Parallel, which is the Chuck Zukowski kind of career story. That was a great read. So yeah, there's tons of stuff out there, but I think my knowledge more comes from scattered sources.
That makes sense. So since you mentioned Ed and Lorraine Warren, how do you think they were portrayed in those Conjuring and Annabelle movies that they did? And a bit of a follow-up, when you see movies like that, are there any that you see where you think they accurately kind of portray what a paranormal investigator does? Or is it just way far off?
No. I mean, I have seen a lot of paranormal. I shouldn't say a lot because I stopped watching them. I couldn't stand it anymore. But I mean, I've seen multiple, found footage and stuff like that, movies that have been made which follow like paranormal people, and in every single one of them, I end up like with a headache, and because I just there was a movie 8212 Gacy House, I believe was the name of it. Loved the movie, but had to tear my hair out when it came to how investigators were portrayed. They even had sex during an investigation. No, I just want to put out there for anybody who's thinking of starting to become sex is not allowed during an investigation. I just want to put that out there. Add that to my list. Yeah, investigation celibate. That's what you need to be. So no, it's always added into the Hollywood stuff. They always have to make it interesting. I mean, any investigator who's listening to this or that you'll come in contact with that's an actual investigator will tell you that 90 to 95% of every investigation is just silence. It's just nothing going on. You're literally just sitting on the floor in a chair, asking a question, waiting for like 40 seconds, and then you ask another one, and nothing happens. But it's the other 5 to 10% that's amazing. But as for Ed and Lorraine Warren, I was told by people who knew them and knew of the case and stuff like that a lot of I should say a lot, but a lot of like the really intense scenes were exaggerated or didn't happen at all. And they were put in there obviously for the Hollywood theme. And I guess because I've done a lot of research on Ed and Lorraine Warren, I'm kind of on the fence as to whether the events and stuff that happen in like The Conjuring and the Enfield house, which was part 2, or especially Amityville, probably were not as active and intense as they claim it is, and as obviously history claims it is. I think it's been greatly exaggerated, but nobody will ever take away, especially me, about what Ed and Lorraine Warren meant to the field and what they all did for us. So no, I do not think that they were accurately portrayed in The Conjuring or any of those. I actually never saw Annabelle.
Annabelle 3 was the worst movie I ever saw in my life, and if Ed and Lorraine were watch that one from beyond, I don't imagine they'd be happy. But yeah, I don't know. They made 3 movies about a doll, and that's too much.
I agree. I agree. I heard number 2 was really good. I haven't seen any of them. Because I think at that point in time I had gotten to, I can't stand this. I can't stand paranormal movies because just as you had said, how they're portrayed, how investigators are portrayed, how the paranormal is portrayed. Now there's a video game online that people can play that's about paranormal investigators, and you can investigate in this game and
have
the only
sex.
reason I say what?
You're just investigating, having sex, shooting demons, probably, I'm guessing.
Well, the demon is probably accurate. I don't know if there's a sex option, for it. Maybe that's an extension pack, but but I literally bought it specifically because I couldn't complain about it until I did.
That's fair enough.
Because they had so many things wrong. And yeah, so like I said, I'm a prude when it comes to how investigators and the paranormal people are portrayed.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, man, it's been really nice chatting with you here and getting a little glimpse into your world. Do you have any last stories you want to leave us with before we wrap it up here, or anything else you want to let people know about the convention, or just any upcoming projects, or anything at all you want to cover before we call it a night?
Yeah. I guess I'll hit a little bit of those. So again, if you wanted to come to Minnesota, the PARAUNITY convention, mnparacon.com. and you can see the whole list of everybody that is going to be there, along with single day, 2-day VIP passes. They're all still available. And if you have any questions, obviously, I answer them as soon as I can, even if it's 3 a.m. I've done it many, many times. If you're interested in Vegas, if you want to plan a trip for December, maybe an early Christmas gift, it's vegasparaunity.com. I have a whole slew of people on there already, and I'm only going to be adding like 4 or 5 more in the next couple days. If you want to come and investigate with my team and I, who, whatever you think of me, my team they're way better people than I am. So I'm honored to have them as my team, and they're phenomenal in everything that they do. But if you want to come out and investigate with us at Edinburgh, down in Iowa, I should be having it. I don't know if it's going to get done tonight, but in the next day or two, or if you see it after, the 23rd, go to odysseyevents.llc.com, which is my paranormal events company. And you can come and join us at Edinburgh, March 19th through the 21st. And it's a very, very small group. I'm only allowing like 10 VIP for the whole weekend. And you can come investigate with us and use all of our equipment. I have pretty much everything. But so there's that. One final story. Let's see. I like I said, I'm more of an evidence guy. Like, I have to be reminded of like things that I have encountered. I will say this weekend, my team and I are joining another great team from here in Minnesota. We're going down to Farrar Schoolhouse down in Iowa, where I've been multiple times, and I've had a lot of really both positive and negative type of experiences. One of my investigators was scratched there once. Even got an EVP about it, which is still creeps her out. But yeah, it's I would just say, yeah, I have too many stories, too many places, too long of a career. And I look forward for more. But I mean, I guess the only thing that I would say is that, if anybody has any questions, if anybody wants any advice, whether you're an investigator or not, if you have a story you would like some advice on, or maybe you need help with an investigation, you can go ahead and contact me, director at odysseyparanormalsociety.com. If you like something to be on our radio show, odysseyfilesradio@gmail.com. So yeah, I guess I'll just leave it up to the listeners. If they want to contact me with a question or anything, I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can.
Awesome. That's super awesome. All right, one last thing I was thinking about. Do you think any ghosts are going to show up to your convention?
No.
Okay.
Well, unless they're brought.
For them, right?
Unless they're brought, because people have attachments, but the thing about it is, and I guess this is a theory that I don't know if it could ever be proven or not, but I mean, there's just spirits roaming around all over the place. I'm sure that I've had a few that just walk through my house at random times. They're not haunting the place. They're not attached to it. They're just kind of, because if you can go anywhere, wouldn't you just like walk into people's homes for no reason?
Yeah,
that looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just do it, whatever you want, eventually you're just gonna walk everywhere. So yeah.
Well, travel or going. I mean, I don't know if you really have to walk, but I mean, I guess am I saying that no spirit would ever attend the convention? Yeah, no. I'm sure they would. Probably during Chip's gallery reading, more than likely they'll probably all come in. But yeah. So I think that all of a sudden, books are going to start flying off the tables. I hope that would be amazing, but I doubt it.
All right. Well, thanks again very much for taking some time out of your schedule to talk with us, and we will see you in Duluth, July 8th through 10th at the convention.
Oh, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, Corey.
Thank you.